So, something happened earlier this November that wrecked me. Determined to get ahead of my holiday to-do list, I spent most of my afternoon and evening on what can only be called the digital manifestation of a siren's lullaby. I entered this situation incredibly well-intentioned. How could this possibly go wrong? Little did I know that I was dipping my toe in one of the most stressful, time-consuming, death-defying, money-grabbing, unpyramid-shaped schemes that left me completely unsatisfied. I gave in to the Philippines 11/11 Christmas sale. For those who don't know, 11/11 is basically the Black Friday sale of the Philippines, where most online shops go on a massive sale. One can basically go click away to your heart's content with the promise of free shipping and 20% off your next purchase. And I personally know that it's a money grab and that at the end of it all lies buyer's remorse. But I just couldn't stop myself.
Then again, who needs a scarf? Wrap some old jeans around your neck. That'll keep you warm. That's what your mother would do. You're right, she would. The point about this scarf is that it would become part of a definition of your psyche.
I think this pretty much covers it. Confessions of a Shopaholic is the adaptation of the first two books in Sofia Kinsella's chick-lit Shopaholic series. The film, which was released in 2009, was directed by PJ Hogan and featured Isla Fisher as the Shopaholic and Hugh Dancy as her no-nonsense, finance-savvy boyfriend. While the movie currently has an abysmal Rotten Tomato rating and a general bad reputation among the chick-lit fans, it still earned its spot in cheesy goodness history. I want to preface this by stating that I in no way find this movie to be bad. I'm charmed by nearly everything this movie has to offer. In fact, I think it's an underrated gem that most working woman genre fans tend to gloss over. Which surprises me because the movie is explicitly anti-capitalist by nature. It has themes similar to Devil Wears Prada. Whereas that movie discussed the way the exploitative workforce destroyed passion, purpose, and human relationships, Confessions of a Shopaholic talks about how consumerism makes people feel like they're filling up the void of emptiness and insecurity that capitalism leaves behind. To give credit to those who have researched and deconstructed Confessions before me, I would like to point you all to Daniel Todd, the writer of the academic paper The Shopaholic: Consumer Culture and Identity. In particular, she helped me identify and find the words to talk about the Confessions of a Shopaholic as a fun romp through consumer culture gone wild, as well as a commentary on women's relationship to consumerism. Now, consumer culture is a social studies theory which talks about how human lives rely on consumption, and not the simple act of buying and paying. In general, it talks about how consumption is imbued with societal meaning. From there, one can easily see how Confessions link consumer culture to the fashion industry to expose its exploitation. As a young child, Becky was essentially deprived of, consumption. She felt left behind in a world filled with glitz and glam. She felt incomplete. While it was never explicitly stated in the text, the mother and father's frugality seemed to be brought about their lack of desire to play into certain norms. And while this rejection was easy for them, it wasn't for Becky, who was easily seduced by high fashion as represented by Alette magazine. When Becky grew up and found a job to fund her retail therapy, it didn't nurse this trauma away. It only worsened her situation because, consumerism thrives on the act of consuming, and therefore refuses to give a person any form of permanent emotional satisfaction. It only feeds into the false and materialistic needs created by a consumerist and capitalist society, and pretends to be a worthy substitute to social and societal contentment. In Confessions, this concept is mostly shown through Becky's relationship with shopping and money, and how it destroyed her friendship with Suze. This is evident during the movie's moral climax, where she had to choose between a $100 purple dress, which she bought under pressure from Alette, and the bridesmaid dress for Suze's wedding. And the most significant thing about this particular moment is that it is Alette, the head of the most fashionable magazine in the Confessions canon, coercing her and forcing her to choose the purple dress. This is the perfect example of Adorno's culture industry at work. Now, culture industry is a term coined by the Frankfurt School philosophers Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer, which aims to explain popular culture. In the simplest terms, the culture industry argues that films, radios, programs, and magazines being circulated in our society are comparable to factory-producing standardized goods, and only exists to reinforce existing capitalistic norms and manipulate its audience in passivity. This culture industry constantly creates what other Marxist philosophers call as false consciousness, where those in lower economic brackets are manipulated into believing ideologies peddled out by capitalists, and work toward goals that prevent them from recognizing their oppression and exploitation. I bring this up because this is exactly what Alette is doing in Confessions of a Shopaholic. Alette is the giant fashion magazine of Becky's dreams, and while the movie was never detailed with its content, it can easily be likened to big real-world magazines like Vogue, Elle, and Harper's Bazaar. It's not much of a leap to assume that Alette writes and markets fashion and lifestyle that only few can achieve. The fact that their brand is personified by two skinny white women who look down both figuratively and literally on Becky for not having the strong sense of style and the money to afford it speaks multitudes in itself. It is fitting that Becky, who was deprived of material goods, wanted to join one of the biggest and most manipulative industries in the world. Up until she rejected her offer in the latter part of the movie, she believed that joining Alette would be the turning point she needed to be both financially secure and emotionally fulfilled. And Alette and her people did not actually care for either of that.
You will make your column personal. You take pieces from your own wardrobe. Like this, for example. This is very pretty.
This one.
This season, I believe.
Well, they're Louboutins, so, they're not affordable fashion.
Fear not. Chez Alette, we print the prices very small. And after all, what are credit cards for, huh? You must know that.
Yeah. Wow.
In this scene, notice the way Alette talks about her job offer to Becky. Alette presented the chance to write about affordable fashion in order to tap a whole new market and a whole new social class. Note that in the women's back and forth, it is heavily implied that Alette sees no value in what is actually put into her magazine. Her only motivation is the expansion of her own brand and reach, which she does by perpetuating the dangerous consumerist culture Becky fell prey to at the beginning of the movie. Why? Because she saw how valuable Becky was to the people. The girl in the green scarf's popularity, along with the controversy that broke her credibility and severed her ties with successful saving, opened business opportunities for Alette. What better way to sell a magazine to the masses than by opening a door to someone who's part of a social class? She was asking Becky to encourage Alette readers to follow the path to ultimate shallow fulfillment, i.e., the act of uncontrolled and addicting consumerism. Becky recognized this form of manipulation and rejected it. Having seen the way capitalism destroys, she did not want to contribute to the culture perpetuated by people like Alette, and ultimately turned down the job of her dreams. This was the beginning of her redemption arc. After re-establishing all her friendships by getting rid of all the excess clothing she had hoarded and paying off the final bits of her debt, free of a shopping addiction, she is jobless and broke, but not until she falls into the hands of her former ex-boss, Luke. The two make up, he offers her a job, and she rejoins the workforce again as a famous columnist in Luke's magazine. But does this make the Shopaholic a subversive text? The thing with Confessions of a Shopaholic is that it was never meant to be an anti-consumerist text. The series author, Sofia Kinsella, said herself that she doesn't write the books to make big sweeping statements or strong critiques on capitalism. But then again, with the nature of her plot, it's not surprising that these messages came out organically. In my opinion, yes, I would say that this movie is a general net positive. Intent or not, it's one of the chick flicks that really focuses on the systemic roots of consumerist behavior, whereas other movies in the same field show individual violence and abuse. That being said, we also have to acknowledge the movie's weakest point: its ending. If we were to go by Adorno's theory of the culture industry, as I have been the entire essay, then we are to assume that Confessions still reinforces the current hegemonies in place despite criticizing it. In fact, it's pretty evident by the way the ending panned out, when Becky rejoins the corporate workforce after her boyfriend Luke extends an olive branch and hires her into his new company. To be fair to the movie, I don't think any media can encompass all the issues with capitalism in under 2 hours. And I don't think anyone is under any obligation to take on an almost impossible task. But I find that the ending of the film follows a stereotypical, somewhat patriarchal and individualistic pattern present in plenty romantic comedy movies. While Becky did sell all her things in an effort to pay off her debt and get back on her feet, her sacrifice and the anti-consumerist message is undermined by the return of Luke. This is reminiscent of many other similar chick licks like Made in Manhattan, You've Got Mail, and While You Were Sleeping, wherein a rich, successful white businessman becomes the solution to poverty. Whereas earlier, I applauded Confessions for focusing on the systemic roots of consumerism perpetuated by the culture industry, I have to criticize it for its individualistic solution. However good the movie initially was, I felt that the ending was almost tone-deaf because the cishet white man, one of the faces of the nepotistic Wall Street, saved Becky from the consequences of her addiction. While in general there is nothing wrong with Luke as a character, like he's a generally good guy, it seems that this shows the limitations of chick flicks in the film industry, which most of the time is controlled by giant corporations. For them, it's one thing to show the negative effects of capitalism in a fun, quirky, zany chick flick movie. But rejecting capitalism entirely is a totally different thing. If anything, we can take comfort in knowing that despite working within the limitations of the culture industry, Confessions still dares to criticize big, money-grabbing industries. Even if Becky did get her scarf back in the end. Hey guys, Ika here, and thank you so much for watching my video. It's the end of the year, and it surprises me that I kept this channel up and running until here. It's been a wild journey, and I just want to thank you all for your support. I am so close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you're new here and you wanna subscribe to my channel and, learn more about media, that would be great. A lot of things are happening. I'm very busy with work. I'm not doing this full time. So maybe that's why my upload schedule is a bit wonky right now, and it could get wonkier over the next 25 to 30 days, who knows. But I will do my absolute best to peddle out new videos for you because I appreciate you all. If you're listening to this now, I probably have a Ko-fi or a coffee bonus video or bonus essay out. Please feel free to check it out. I don't know what it is yet, but it should be there. And if you want to donate, that will mean the world to me. So there we go. Hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.